because he came out when that bill came out and he said, do not do this. The economy doesn't need this stimulus. It's gonna cause inflation. Larry Summers was right. House Republicans were right. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were wrong. So how are you going to entrust her with the economic future of our country when she's already damaged the last 4 years of purchasing power for the same people who need help today?
Byron Dunn's on here eating them up. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Do not miss America Fest 2024. It's happening December the 19th through the 22nd at the Phoenix Convention Center right here in my home city. Get ready to hear from top speakers, including myself, Tucker Carlson, Matt Gaetz, whom I love. I met Matt Gaetz in person. That dude is just as cool as he is when you see him on the television. We got Donald Trump Jr. and many more of the nation's top speakers. You'll connect with thousands of patriots, enjoy live concerts, and develop leadership skills that will energize you to make a difference in your community. Secure a spot today. Use promo code Tatum and get 25% off general admission at ampfest.com. See y'all at America Fest. Let's go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at this. I don't want to make this video too long because my videos are tremendous. And it all stemmed from me doing a 3-hour radio show every day. I had literally talk for 3 hours a day every day on top of doing my other videos. So now it's hard for me to get the videos under 20 minutes because I just love talking. Anyway, I'm going to try to get straight to the bottom of this. They had the nerve, the Revolt World had the nerve to put Byron Donalds on the panel. I don't know what they're thinking. The arrogance of these people is just beyond me. Like, if you think you're going to challenge Byron Donalds, you need to, like, have your research done and not try to act like you're going to put the man on the spot because he's going to whoop you in the corner. That's all I'm going to say. Let's roll the clip. Roll it.
So the poll found that although the majority of voters supported VP Harris, 18% of black men supported Trump because of his positions on the economy. Congressman Donalds, tell us why.
Because when he was president, the economy worked. We got to be honest about the facts. When he was president of the United States, our inflation rate was basically 2% throughout the entire time. Wages adjusted for inflation were rising. And that's the measure that really matters, wages adjusted for inflation. When you look at black unemployment, it was the lowest time at any point in American history to that point in time. When you look at the economy overall, it was growing across the board. The Trump tax cuts, which gets demonized a lot, actually added more revenue to the federal government than at any other point in the history of our country, adjusted for inflation. There was money coming back from overseas because companies were bringing that money back, and the way the entire tax policy was structured, it was actually moving into really only two categories. One, wages for workers. Two, being able to buy back stocks. That's the only two ways that money was being really invested. There was a third way, capital expenditures, but that was another point of his tax policy. Then you get to regulatory policy. When he came in, he cut about $1 trillion worth of harmful, in my view, regulations from the Federal Register that was slowing down small businesses in the United States. So when you put all that stuff together, it was one of the great points of economic growth in our country, and every demographic group took advantage of that, was rewarded with that economic growth. Everybody had a piece of that economic pie. So black men are looking back and they're saying, okay, we had the 4 years of Trump, we have the 4 years of Biden-Harris. Which one was better for my pockets? Which one was I excelling in more and more? And if you look at the economic data, it's not a doubt. It was under Donald J. Trump. And that's why you're seeing more and more black men saying, you know what? I'm going to roll with Trump.
Counter, Gary.
I would just have to disagree because, pay attention, he said up until that point, it was the lowest unemployment rate. The lowest unemployment rate for black people was actually in 2023 under Joe Biden. Donald Trump inherited a strong economy from Barack Obama, number one, and he fumbled the bag. He had a strong economy, he got hit with COVID, and he fumbled the bag. So Biden gets in office with a pandemic, a financial catastrophe, and had to build it back up. What we look at is people who have a memory of the beginning of Donald Trump and not the end of Donald Trump. And government is like a ship. It turns slowly, not swift like a speedboat. And so the progress that we saw in the very beginning of his term, he just inherited that. So when we talk about the benefits of Trump, there really were none in the end. If you look at the judges he appointed and the things that they're rolling back and the injustices that are taking place as far as some of their rulings, you don't have to look at Roe v. Wade. You can look at black folks in South Louisiana cannot sue the chemical plants anymore for environmental racism. They can't get the job at the
environmental racism. Oh, I'm gonna let him finish it. But the thing is that real quick, and of course he has an opportunity to finish what he's saying. But I just have to interject here. Like they love to say he inherited a great economy. If Barack Obama's economy was so good that he passed the great economy to somebody else, the Democrats would have still been in office. Why didn't people vote for Hillary Clinton? If Democrats had a real plan for America, and there wasn't a whole bunch of manufacturing jobs getting shipped overseas, and people weren't feeling the pressure of Democratic regulation and policy, they would have voted for another Democrat. This is the telltale sign of how people lose public office, the economy. Every time there's an economic crisis, people tend to switch political leaders. Donald Trump, unfortunately, had COVID, which was an economic crisis, and they switched leaders. For the most part, I think it's something sketchy going on. But you get what I'm saying. Barack Obama was the same way. The affordable health care stuff, all that stuff, the American people was like, we need something. We were forgotten. And this guy saying he just inherited Obama's great economy. It's just, and if Trump gave them such a bad economy and they're doing so great, Donald Trump wouldn't have a chance in it. He wouldn't have a chance in this election. It's because it's not real. People are not really feeling what he's saying. It's not real. It's talking points.
Plant, when the plant comes in, they're going to get the cancer from the plant. And because of Trump's judges, now they can't sue when they are harmed by those things. When you talk about what's going to benefit the economy in the long run, it's going to be things that like what Vice President Harris is talking about. 3 million new homes that she plans to build, $50,000 that she plans to give in tax credits to small business owners. Donald Trump only wants to give tax credits to the wealthy. That doesn't benefit working class, everyday, regular black people. I think that when we...
Let me stop him real quick. I'm going to let him finish. The economy, real quick, 30 seconds. If you look at Thomas Sowell's economic writings, it is very clear that when they cut taxes, they get more revenue to the Treasury. Everybody knows that. Every economist knows that. I don't know why people don't get on to that. Because when people feel like the tax code is fair, they pay more taxes. When they feel like it's unjust, they find ways to cheat the taxes and don't pay them at all. So when you cut taxes, people pay them, and you get more money to the Treasury when you cut taxes than when you don't. It's a proven fact. Roll the clip.
Talk about these numbers, we need to also look at where are the strongest economies in the country and where are the most failing kind of economies in the country. I'm from Louisiana, the 50th ranked state in the nation. If you want to see what Republican policies do, I invite you to visit us any day.
Count. You got to count?
Oh, I got a lot of things to count today. First, number one, when Barack Obama left office, the economy was actually not growing. We were in a stagnant economy. And this is my career. I'm securities licensed. I worked in the business 17 years. The economy was actually growing only 1 to 1.5% per year when Donald Trump came into office. When he cut regulation and put in his tax policy, which, by the way, like I said before, grew the federal treasury, you lower tax rates, you actually get more tax revenue. That's an empirical fact. When he did that, mirrored with his put together with his regulation cuts, economic growth in the United States went from 1.5 under Barack Obama to 3.5 under Donald Trump. Those are the facts. That's the details. Number two, to what Kamala Harris wants to do. First and foremost, how's she going to build 3 million new homes? Has she actually told us how she's going to do that? Because she has not. Quite frankly, she hasn't told us much of anything, but I digress. Hold on, brother, I'm gonna come to that. Here's why. The same regulatory policy that the Biden-Harris administration has now put in across the board, including their environmental regulations, that slows down the ability to build new homes in the United States, and it increases the cost of building homes in the United States. And that's before I get to her economic policy. Number two, giving $25,000 to a first-time home buyer, that's only going to make the cost of homes $25,000 more. Because every seller in the United States is going to say, well, hold up, you a first-time home buyer? You got another $25,000 from the feds? Well, cool. Now my price of my home is now $25,000 more. It's actually not going to help the affordability crisis. Number three, her plan about wanting a $6,000 child tax credit. Well, a funny thing happened in the American Rescue Plan that Joe Biden signed into law in April, May of 2021. Kamala Harris was a deciding vote in the Senate on that plan. In that plan was the same tax credit policy. When that came to the House of Representatives, I was on the Budget Committee. When it came in, we said to them, this is going to create inflation, because what you're doing is you're going to give the child tax credit combined with state unemployment benefits, and that's going to be more than the average prevailing wage across the states right now. So essentially, people are going to stay at home. Why would you go to work in the middle of the second half of the pandemic when you're getting state unemployment and you're getting a child tax credit and you're making more money being in the house? That created a labor shortage in the United States, which created the inflation that's been crippling families.
Come on, man. God. Hey. Somebody tell me if there's another brother out there as smart as this man. How can they deny what he's saying? That's all I'm saying.
So, brother, I hear what you're saying, but the economic record is clear. If you're trying to generate economic growth, which is the thing that's going to allow small businesses to thrive, allow black people to thrive, Hispanic people, white people, etc., you have to have a low tax environment. You have to have a low regulatory environment. And she's not proven that she can build, frankly, anything. She's in charge right now of the broadband program that was in the Inflation Reduction Act. They've not added anybody under the Biden-Harris administration to rural broadband, even though they put $42 billion towards that program. So I'm looking at what she's done, not what she says. And what she says doesn't add up.
Okay.
I think that you said a whole lot of things to say a bunch of nothing in some ways, because
Really, bro? Okay, that's y'all's response. Okay.
You bring up these policies. Question for you: do you support raising the federal minimum wage?
No, I don't. I never
Okay,
have.
so when we talk about the policies that he's supporting, those policies support the wealthy. He doesn't support making regular, everyday people be able to earn a higher living, because he believes that the wages are going to trickle down because the people with the majority of the money are going to pour some money into your cup all of a sudden. It never happens. It never happens. When you look at the policies of Democrats versus Republicans, Democrats have created more jobs over the last 30 years under Democrat presidents than conservative presidents. 2.3 million jobs got lost under Donald Trump. And he's skipping over the last 2 years of Trump's
2-point-something million jobs got lost under Trump. How do you, with a straight face, act like COVID-19 was a legitimate job loss calculator? Like, the government like, what are you saying? That's not like the economy is rolling and people just losing their jobs because of bad policy. That's not what happened. We have a global pandemic.
presidency, because you can't talk about the fumble bag. You just can talk about what you thought was right in the first two years of the presidency. If you had a leader who was wiser on the front side of the decisions, then we would not have had a crumbling economy and a healthcare crisis on our communities. The second part, did you vote for expanding Medicaid?
Well, actually, I was going to ask you a question because you asked me once, so now I was going to.
I gave you a little bit of time. I want to. This is my time. I want to follow up with that. Did you vote for expanding Medicaid, helping expand Medicaid, or did you vote for the $2,000 cap on prescription drugs this year?
The $2,000 cap, I believe that was in the American Rescue Plan.
Did you vote for it?
Well, no, because it created inflation.
Okay, that's my point.
You can't ask one question.
It's a yes or no. I just want to know, did you vote for it?
You can't ask one question.
Okay.
I want to know, did you vote for it? Because if you didn't vote for that, that's what benefits your grandmother and your grandfather, because now they don't have to pay over $2,000 a year for medical care costs. So when you talk about these things, talk about policies that actually impact working class people. The policies of Donald Trump benefit the wealthy, and those policies never trickle down to you. And just because a rich man's doing well doesn't mean you will.
Okay, counter.
Okay, the talking points are cool, but let's get real. First and foremost, Seattle was the first city that went to a $15 minimum wage. I believe it was about 7 or 8 years ago. Do you know what happened to working people in the city of Seattle? Their hours were cut. Do you know why their hours were cut? Because the price per employee was so much higher that businesses had to start cutting back. People went from working 1 or 2 jobs to working 2 or 3 jobs in the city of Seattle. If you want to, hold on, Gary, now, I backed up. Now chill out for a minute now. Okay, now, if you want to go to the other thing about the minimum wage, if we want to have that economic conversation, Another thing to understand, the prevailing wage, the prevailing market wage right now is significantly over the minimum wage. That's actually the real impact when you look at the minimum wage at any point in time over the last 50 years, that the market wage is always over the minimum wage. The minimum wage is a wage for entry-level employment. So if, my kids are 21, 17, 13, if they have to go work in a restaurant or work on a construction site or work in a hotel or doing something like that, and by the way, in construction, you make a lot more than the minimum wage. Let's establish that. But if you're going to do that, they don't have the skill set to be able to demand a higher wage. That was the original purpose.
$7.25 an hour.
That was the original purpose of the minimum wage. And so I will tell you, and the economic data really over 50 years now has proven that the minimum wage is not really indicative of what people are making every single day. And actually, when you raise the minimum wage, what ends up happening is you start pricing out low-skilled labor.
100%. Thomas Sowell either said this in a speech or something that I read in one of his books. I can't remember which one, but he had made mention very clearly that when you set the minimum wage, you price out low-skilled workers. Because some people, for instance, if you entry level, you don't have a certain education, and they say you need to pay this person $15 an hour, $20 an hour. The company has to look at it and say, you have no experience, and now entry level is competitive with people who aren't in the entry level matrix, right? Let me just flesh this out just a little more. I'm a person out of college, and I'm looking for my first time job, versus a person that's 15 years removed from college and had been working in the private sector for 15 years. A person, if the minimum wage was $7, the college graduate would probably go into that job to start with and then work their way up in a certain company. The 15-year person who has been working on a job is not going to go down to $7 an hour to work on that job. Therefore, the competition is not one-to-one. When you start raising the minimum wage, you go $20 an hour, $15 an hour. A person that may be coming upon hard times, they got 15 years of experience, is going to go for that $15 job as well as a person with no experience. What is the business owner going to do? They're not going to feel sorry for you because you're just out of college, your first job. They're going to say, I'm going to pick the most qualified person. And when you bundle people who are incredibly qualified with people who are entry level, the people who are incredibly qualified will go overtake them. If you charge $30 an hour a minimum wage, I can't pay a person that doesn't have no experience. Therefore, people with a lot of experience are going to compete with them. And it just prices out everybody as low-skilled workers, period.
What's happened at Panera Bread? What's happened at Walmart? What's happened at Costco? What's happened at McDonald's? All these companies, well, when you push a higher wage, what they are starting to do is move towards automation. So now there's less people working in those stores. What does that do to people who are trying to find ways to make ends meet? It gives them less ability to find a job and less ability to put money in their pocket. So specifically to the minimum wage, one quick thing, Ted, I'm going to go quick on this one. When you want to talk about the American Rescue Plan, yes, they put a lot of things in that bill, like what you talked about with the out-of-pocket expense on prescription drugs. But let's be very clear. The American Rescue Plan is the bill that created the inflation that has been hurting every American, regardless of race, in the United States of America, except the rich. Who said that? Not me. Lawrence Summers, who was the economic advisor to Bill Clinton, because he came out when that bill came out and he said, do not do this. The economy doesn't need this stimulus. It's gonna cause inflation. Larry Summers was right. House Republicans were right. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were wrong. So how are you gonna entrust her with the economic future of our country when she's already damaged the last 4 years of purchasing power for the same people who need help today?
Okay, so I want
Boom.
you to counter that, Gary. Then I believe we'll have a question from the audience, and then we want to get to the next topic. I want to make sure both of you have time.
I don't want to go into the details of everything he said, but what I will say is that no American should be making $7.25 an hour anywhere in this country. And if you got a congressman who supports keeping the federal minimum wage at $7.25 an hour, I don't care if you're 15, 16, or 21, you can't afford to pay a light bill on working 40 hours a week at $7.25
But let's be very clear. No American is making $7.25 an hour.
That's not true. I live in South Louisiana. I guarantee you I can find you somebody making $7.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, let me just address that real quick. When Byron Donald said nobody's making $7, it's like most people on average are not making the minimum wage. They're not making that. I don't pay nobody here nowhere near minimum wage, and I never will. And our minimum wage is like $12 an hour. Nobody here make it nowhere near $12 an hour, well above that. And so people are generally not making minimum wage because these companies are being more competitive, and it drives up market value price for these people. You can't get away with charging somebody $7 an hour if the minimum wage is $7, because the person next door that's in the same competitive industry, they give a little bit to their people. They're going to get all the qualified and you get the non-qualified. And your business suffer and theirs flourish. And they make more money than you make less money. So people are, you have to compete in the market at some point. So how do I get people to come to Scottsdale and work here full time and give a great effort and put, I got to pay them more. And that's what I do. Not because the government tell me to do that. It's because I know how business works. So, but people on the other side of it, they want the government to be the solution, and we're saying the people are the solution. Raising taxes is only going to hurt people that don't have a lot of money. It's not going to hurt poor people because they don't pay taxes anyway. It's like a third of the population don't even pay taxes. They're not paying anyway, so it's not going to hurt them if you raise it or drop it. They don't get hurt at all. They're going to still get their money. The people in the middle are the ones who can't afford tax attorneys. They don't own businesses where they have a bunch of tax write-offs. They don't have a firm that do their books for them and paperwork and all this other stuff. They don't have that, and they don't necessarily own a business. They're working class people, so they can't necessarily finagle away around the reality of taxes, meaning that they can't adjust prices and do things like that. Now, the people that are incredibly wealthy, these big corporations, they can easily adjust based on raising taxes. If you raise taxes on me as a major business, I don't know, 5%. I raise my product 5%. It covers my revenue split. You gonna pay it no matter what because you don't have a choice. You're not gonna eat no food. You're not gonna go shop at Walmart. You're not gonna go shop on Amazon. And the CEO of Amazon definitely ain't paying no taxes. They got corporate jets. They put their money in real estate. They got any kind of way to make sure they don't pay all that in taxes. The middle class person don't have that. They can't just lower and raise their salary and stuff to mess with the tax code. They know the tax code represents this. The more money I make, the more I take advantage of the tax code. That's just the way it is. And that's the way it's always going to be. That's the way I'm always going to do it. And for all these people out here, like this guy, it's like, need to turn to the rich people. All you leftists that are billionaires that are giving hundreds of millions of dollars to Kamala Harris's campaign, how about you give hundreds of millions of dollars to the Treasury? Nobody's stopping you from putting more of your money into the Treasury. You don't have to pay you don't have to pay a 15% tax. Your company don't have to pay 20%, 30%. You can pay 60% of your revenue can go to taxes. How about you lead by example? Man, they don't want to do that. They all these people are just puffing smoke, man. I know a lot of wealthy people, and wealthy people ain't paying the proportional amount of tax, and they never will. But how it does affect you is that when a business like me get a tax break, I matriculate that earnings down to my people. I pay them more. I give them raises. I want to make sure they're happy because the happier they are, the more money I'm going to make. And that's the way that works. I don't want to give it to the government. I want to give it to the people. And the more I get a break on my end, the more I'm going to help the people. The more we can innovate, the more I can spend money on building this business and hiring new people. Because hiring new people make me more and more money. All right? Paying taxes don't make me nothing. But anybody with a connected brainstem understand how the economy works. So when she say, I'm going to give away this, give away that, I'm going to do this, and then it's going to cause inflation to go out of control. And once she's in office, you can't get her out. And she don't give a F. She just needs your vote to get into power. Once she's in power, she ain't going to do nothing she says she's going to do. Congress will never pass it. And if she do anything remotely of what she says she do, inflation's going to be out of control, and she's going to blame it on Biden. Until the next person to blame. See y'all on the next one. I'm out.